So, welcome this morning. We have a couple of housekeeping activities that we're going to chance to take care of, and then we'll get to our wonderful presenter. So with that, Jennifer.
Good morning, everybody. How are we doing today? Good. We're about to have a fantastic keynote speaker. I'm excited to see what Manly's got in store for us. If everybody would pull out their red tickets or white tickets that they got when they registered, I've got a gift to give away. If you don't have it, don't fret. Come to the front desk and we can check it if the winner doesn't announce themselves this morning. The number I'm looking for is 829-850. 829-850. All right. We will post it on the SITSD Facebook page, so feel free to look out there. We have a few other winners that are out there, so please pass the word along. They can come to the front desk where we registered and checked you all in order to get their prize. Let us know if you guys have any questions. I will hand it over to Carlos.
Thanks, Jennifer. Another couple quick announcements. Still in that thumb drive search, in case anyone's come across that thumb drive, turn that into the front desk. We'll also have a change of presenter for the 11:15 session that's on today. Jeannie McIsaac-Tracy was set up to present on neuroscience and leadership, and I am going to step in for my colleague who's not able to make it due to weather. So, oh, and also we're canceling the
Solutions, Requirements, Functional, and Non-Functional, Part 2. That one's canceled for today as well.
Did you notice how smoothly I handed her the microphone? Because I could not read that small print, so I didn't want to fess that up. So let me just take up a few minutes just to provide the appropriate introduction to our wonderful keynote. What do you want to be remembered for? Regardless of your title, how you lead, and how you impact the world, how do you want people to reference you? What do you want your brand to be? The same strategies that Manly is going to share with you today are the same strategies he's used to elevate organizations like Build-A-Bear. For those of you who have kids, you remember the absolute craze of the Build-A-Bear workshop. Went from an organization with 40 stores to 400 worldwide. Growth from $55 million to $474 million. Manly helped drive that change, helped drive that organization to the point where Build-A-Bear was recognized for its organizational culture. The Fortune 100 is one of the best companies to work for 4 years straight. So this isn't just an impact to the bottom line. This is a cultural transformation that is sustained over time. His leadership has impacted organizations and agencies. He's part of the Help Desk Institute. He is brought to us because of some of the work that he's been able to do for the state as a presenter in that space around customer service and the power of doing that work. His latest book, Reaching Your Next Summit, will be available. I grabbed a copy. I'm excited about that. He is leveraging over 20 years professional experience dealing with leadership and technology to help organizations like yours basically develop more engaged teams that can step up, take on the challenges with more focus, and really improving their results by, as well as creating more commitment and more personal momentum for the individual. So it's that win-win of great outcomes as well as more engaged players. So on a personal note, we got a chance to visit a little bit this morning with Manly. When he gets the chance, he'll like to sleep on the side of a mountain. It sounded like he made it up almost sleeping on the side of the mountain last night on his travels in, but we'll tell you about that a little later. Even more shocking is his wife has been putting up with him for 24 years, and he has 2 wonderful teenagers who still kiss him on the cheek in front of their friends. So I want to show you a little clip that kind of give you a flavor, kind of a sense of what that looks like.
What IT professionals ever forgot to plug it in? I almost pulled it off perfectly.
No, it was a nice.
Is it plugged in? Did it reboot it? Of course I rebooted. Of course I plugged it in my remote slide cue so that I can seamlessly cue the video with magic.
Please ignore the man behind the curtain.
Boom. Thank you.
I'd been climbing for 6 months when my friend Travis Moore first told me about El Capitan in Yosemite. I'd never forget when he looked at me. He said, "Manly, did you know that there are walls so big that you can climb all day and still not make it to the top?" He said, "You have to sleep on the side of the walls for days before you ever even reach the summit." He planted a seed in my mind that day that started me on a 5-year journey. It took 7 partners and 4 cross-country trips to Yosemite before I finally summited El Cap in 1997. But looking back, I realized that with each attempt, I grew more and more sure that I could actually accomplish my goal. That first experience of conquering something I didn't know I could do at the beginning fueled me with motivation, momentum to continue climbing, and it led me to eventually climb mountains around the world in places like Nepal and Kyrgyzstan and over 300 other destinations.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming father, husband, and friend, Manly Feinberg.
Occasionally, I'm fortunate enough to have somebody approach me after a speech, program, keynote, and share an insight they may have had or ask a question. And recently, I was at a keynote event, wrapped up, and a gentleman walked up. He had this puzzled look on his face when he approached me. He says, "Manly?" I said, "Yeah, it's my name, I swear." He said, "Okay, the video. Let's start with the video. I got a question." He said, "That long-haired guy, that's really you? The awful long hair?" I tried to keep my face straight, but I couldn't hide it, right? I said, "Well, I got a new hairdo. Come on, what do you think, man?" He said, "Keep it short." I swear, oh, we're off to a good start. It's going to be a good one. And he said, "I have a serious question." He goes, "You know, you talk about your family a lot and this climbing thing." He goes, "I got to tell you, it looks really risky." He said, "Looks stupid. No offense." Oh, no offense taken. You already talked to my hair. We're good. I said, "Well, you know what? I should have shared with you that climbing is actually 10 times safer than driving a car." And that's before texting and does not include, of course, Montana snowstorms. He looked at me puzzled, and I said, "I'm telling you, man, I have processes I follow." I said, "You know what? I don't even move my car in the driveway without buckling my seatbelt. I always wear my helmet when I ride my bike." He looked at me. And he was an IT professional like you, actually. And I remember my days in IT. People would look at you, right? And they go, "Are you keeping our credit card data safe? Are you sure when the new payroll system goes live on Friday, everybody's going to get paid?" And I said, I assure you, yes. But people don't understand the process, so they can't really understand and trust the safety, right? They just have to trust you. He looked at me and goes, I get it. Okay, you got your process. Fair enough. But here's my real question. He says, "Why do you climb? It looks hard, man." I said, the short answer is it's worth it. It's worth it because of the climb itself, actually. When you hit the wall and you keep grinding and you don't give up, the perseverance that builds inside of you. And then eventually you do step onto your summit, right? And you have that fleeting moment of success sweep over you. The sun shines on your face for that little spot in time. And you get to celebrate that summit. The confidence that builds in your life. Maybe for you it was when you maybe first earned a diploma or a certification. Or maybe when you first held a newborn in your hands. And then ultimately, I think the most importantly perhaps is on the summit when you take a moment to step back and your perspective is shifted and you get a vision of what's really possible. Because every time you summit, you redefine what's possible in your life. That builds momentum. Incredible opportunity you have right there. It's fleeting though. It's a fleeting moment. Make sure you look around on the next summit. Today I'm here as your Sherpa. A Sherpa is someone who you bring on your team for a little while. And they come shoulder to shoulder with you, lighten your load perhaps for a little while, maybe illuminate a new path forward in your life for whatever mountain you're facing. I don't know what mountains you're dealing with in your life. I know in my life, I've just got basic stuff I'm trying to do well, and it's not easy a lot of days. I mean, just for me to get up out of bed, fully engaged, on 3 hours of sleep. And show up for my team and show up for your teams in a way that brings an incredible value. So you've got to have me back, and I'm your Sherpa. I'm the person that can help you. And then on top of that, we're supposed to eat less, eat healthier, drink less, show up to work sober, and on time. Show up home sober for your loved one who needs you. Right? It's a lot we're dealing with, right? A lot. And on top of that, you're in IT. Non-stop. Or you're serving your government in some way. I mean, non-stop. It's coming at you, right? Does it ever stop? Do the calls stop coming in 11 a.m. when you're ready to go to bed, David? No. I don't know exactly what mountain you're dealing with. And whatever you do, I want you to make sure you don't do this. Sometimes people look at me and they see and they hear somebody's successes and they go, man, he's got it all figured out. It must be nice. I wish that was true. The truth is I'm struggling too. I don't know which one's the mountain you're dealing with, but we've all got them. I guarantee you though, what I'm going to share with you today, if you will implement it in your life, just one idea perhaps will make a difference. In 1992, when I started climbing, I had no idea that my vertical experiences would influence and impact and help so many people in my life. And then by the time I stepped in that door to Build-A-Bear, it was 2001. And I noticed that right away that I was instinctually applying my vertical experiences, those lessons, day in and day out. And after a little while, I started doing it very intentionally. And the results really started showing up. As Carlos mentioned, Build-A-Bear was a pretty wild ride. It was one of those crazy moments in IT and infrastructure when the growth, you just can't keep up with it. I know you all know how that feels. And as those store counts grew from 40 to over 425 by the time I walked out the door, of course, all the revenue went up as well. And then the back end to support that, and we just could barely keep our head above water. And then 2008 hit. And we got to enjoy that roller coaster ride, right? Less resources, y'all know how that goes. Less head count, everything's going down except one thing. You think the user expectations went down with the budget? No, of course not. Not easy. So people ask me that question too. They say, well, Manly, it's just a teddy bear, right? I mean, come on, what was so special about Build-A-Bear? I'll tell you exactly what it was. I'll tell you why Harvard Business is still teaching about Build-A-Bear and why they think it's a revolutionary idea. We focused on the experience. That's the only thing that made it unique, really. And I would venture to say that, without making you freak out or anything, I don't want to scare you, but I want you to think about this for just a second. The skills you bring to the table. Do you think there's somebody else out there who might have a similar skill set, or perhaps even more skill set than you do, that can fill your position, yes or no? Of course. But they don't have what you bring to the table. You bring your experience. You bring the experience you create with every single person you interact with every single day. Regardless of your title, regardless of your position, regardless of your role, your ability to create that magical experience in that moment is, first for me, freaked me out, and then I thought it was very empowering. That's what it was about at Build-A-Bear. That's how we built loyalty at that store and all those stores around the world where people just kept coming back and build more teddy bears. And that's why I think, even though it was an incredibly intense environment, high expectations, fast moving, that we were able to get on the Fortune 100 best companies to work for year after year, even though we were pushing everyone to work harder and bring more to the table and deliver more value. It's about the experience. I don't know if you've been there, but 3 or 103 years old, when you sit down and you build your own teddy bear and you have an experience that's meaningful, everything changes. We created the same experience at the headquarters. Where else would you see? On the far right, that's me with the long-haired IT look and my director executive glasses on, made me look smarter. My buddy, when I came in with him one day, said, if you'd had those on when we hired you, we would have probably paid you more. I didn't know, I would have bought some. To my right there's the founder and CEO, Miss Maxine Clark. Would always make sure that she was right in there with us shoulder to shoulder. And then we focused on that experience, of course, at the headquarters. One thing we focused on at the headquarters, I think will take a quick takeaway for you as well, is that we focused on making sure that every single employee knew what it felt like to be on the front lines and who we were really serving while we were there. So we kept our employees on the front lines. One of the things I shared with Ms. Christie's team when I was in town in the spring was to make sure that you try to get out there and feel the front lines. Whatever it is that you do, whoever you support, what are they dealing with? What's it feel like when their line backs up at DMV or wherever, and that officer is pulled over on the side of the road and he's wondering who's in that car, he's going to try to take a shot at him. Is that record system ready to give him the real lowdown on that character sitting behind the wheel. Feel the front lines. I get pushed back sometimes. People say, well, we can't really put our people on the front lines. It's a scary environment, mainly. I have customers in the military. They put people on the front lines, literally support people right behind the front lines. I have a customer, a friend, client, who is a hospital administrator and service manager for IT. He puts his new service people in scrubs in OR. So if he can do it, anybody can do it. Feel the front lines. So you're always intimately connected with why you're really there. That was the secret, really. That's why I think we were so successful at Build-A-Bear. Every single day at Build-A-Bear, I intentionally applied the 8 vertical lessons you're going to pick up today. Just pick one. That's my request, or my call to action for you, is to just pick one of them, okay? Any one of them, and apply it consistently. Hopefully that sounds pretty reasonable right now. What do you think? Are you ready? Yeah. Good. Sounds good here, right? And I've been there. I've been in your seat, and I've been that person fired up, taking notes. I'm a serious, committed learner, lifelong learner. I take notes. I sit up front. I go back and I try to implement the ideas. But I don't know if you've ever done all your best and even bring in a really engaging speaker, and you go home, get back to work, and 3 months later you ever found yourself in the same spot you were when you walked in the door? Yeah, that's happened to me over and over and over. I think there's a critically important question we have to ask ourselves at all phases of this. When you walk out of here, when you go back to work, whenever that is it going to be worth it? I mean, really, don't you have enough to do without trying to implement some crazy idea that I give you or anybody else is giving you? I mean, you've already been here a few days. Raise your hand if you already have a list of things you could probably go back into you think would make a difference. Raise your hand high. Good. There we go. Getting value. So, just take one. I don't know why that it's worth it for you, but I know for some of you. Maybe it's that feeling of success when somebody recognizes you for the excellence you bring to the table, and you get to stand out a little bit from the crowd. Or maybe you just want to get a little handle on the chaos. I think perhaps most importantly, I want you to imagine walking into your home at the end of the day, less frustrated and more fulfilled, with more left over for those who love and need you most. That is worth it. I am so grateful to be here with you this morning. You have no idea. Thank you for showing up. All right, give yourself a hand here of applause. Thank you for showing up. Seriously. My mama taught me to show up. She said, son, show up. And when you get there, step up. It all started with her and my first crazy idea. I had a long mullet down the back of my neck. My mom hated it, by the way. Party in the back, business on top. I was inspired by the great Eddie Van Halen to pick up the electric guitar as a young teenager. Do we have any Van Halen fans in the house? Woo! There we go. Woo! All right. We're going to have fun today, y'all. Nobody's going to stop us either. Got the guitar and I started picking around a little bit. I remember sitting on the couch one night. My mom, she and I were watching a documentary on Woodstock. There was a young man playing the national anthem. Y'all remember who that was? Jimi Hendrix. You got it. Now, do we have any Jimi Hendrix fans in the house? All right. Good. I stood there and I remember it hit my mind. I thought, oh, that would be cool. I thought, what if I played the national anthem at my basketball games? And I'm going to tell you about the basketball games where I grew up. I grew up in Bardstown, Kentucky, a Catholic community. We do 3 things in Bardstown pretty regular. Number 1, lots of basketball. Every Friday nearly there's bingo. You Catholics get that. And occasionally we do the fish fry, right? And then every single day, all day long, lots of bourbon. Yes, sir. 90% of the world's bourbon was made there when I grew up, and they were still cranking it out. Before it was fashionable, we were drinking it. Popped in my mind, I thought, wow. And before I could talk myself out of it, I went to the basketball coach. I said, Coach Hart, I'd like to play the national anthem for our basketball games. He said, well, you don't play on a team. He says, I guess you can be available. You wouldn't be in here. He said, you got to have to go to the principal. That's not my decision. Go to Sister Margaret. I went to a little Catholic high school, and so I go to Sister Margaret. She says, but you have to come to the school board. And I go talk to some school board members. They said, well, it was really the decision of the chair of the school board, Mr. Curtis Ice. He's going to be the decider, but you have to come in and just play for all of us. So why don't you show up Wednesday? We got a meeting anyway, and meet us down in the gymnasium. We'll be in there, and bring your guitar and whatever you got. They stared at me. So I get in there, and I poured no, it was just empty in that gymnasium. You don't remember that old smell of the old gymnasium, that varnish, and I got in there. It's empty, except the school board member sitting right in front of me. And right dead center was Mr. Curtis Ice. 6'6", this gruff, amazing man of power. And he said, Manly, it's a crazy idea, you know. He said, but just play it. Play what you got. I played it. I try to keep it straight, simple, note for note, and I got down that last note, the national anthem, and I just put a little, what they call a vibrato on there, you know, a little bit of, and try to express myself. He said, stop! Oh, she huddles up 3 minutes. It felt like 30 though, and he finally breaks this huddle. He says, Manly, you know, we think this is actually, we're going to try it. We're going to give you a shot. He said, Manly, this year, you know, we've been struggling on the basketball team. I remember thinking, we struggle every year. But I kept my mouth shut. Y'all know how that goes. I said, yes, sir. He said, we have 3 rules for you. That's it. He said, number 1, son, I want it just straight and simple, note for note. You got it? He said, none of that wiggle you did at the end. I remember thinking, wiggle? What is he? Oh, he's talking about vibrato. I did not correct him, of course. Yes, sir, I got it. He said, number 2, listen, we want this to be special, man. Like, we're going to just have you do it at the biggest games, the opening game, and homecoming, maybe the closing, big rivalries. I said, I'm in. Yes, sir. And he said, number 3. Listen to me close. I don't want no type of rock and roll shenanigans. Do you understand me, young man? I said, yes, sir, Mr. Ice. I got it, baby. The baby part didn't come out. That was in my mind. Yes, sir, I got it. I went home and I started getting strategic. I know y'all know this. You've made a list of things you could do to go back, but especially the jobs and what you do every day. You just can't willy-nilly go implement a crazy idea, right? You got to step back and be strategic and careful. And I did that very thing. I stepped back and I thought, well, better get busy, better learn how to do it. And sure enough, before I knew it, that first game of homecoming, first game of the year had come, and I showed up. And I played it note for note, as he asked me to. That evening, I walked into my home. And my mother was always right at the front door with me, waiting. And first thing she would do is give me a big hug. And then right followed up by that, she'd give me a kiss on the cheek, and then a quick... Y'all know what she was doing, don't you? She was doing that old-fashioned nose bomb breathalyzer, checking for the bourbon. I passed for one of the few times. So we go down, we sit down on that couch where we had a lot of important conversations, and she said, well, how'd it go? I said, it's all right. I'm fine. She said, fine? Well, you went out of here, you were all fired up, and now you just come in here and it was fine? What? She, like any great leader, she said, what would make it amazing? She followed up with a better question. I said, I know what would make it amazing. Mom, I had a crazy idea. And she said, well, tell me about it. I said, no, I don't even know how to do it. I don't even think I have the equipment to do it. It's ridiculous. And she said, just share the idea with me. Why not? Sorry. As I would pull back, she just kept pulling me forward through the whole conversation. And finally, we got down to the end of the night, and she said, how about Mr. Ice? What's he going to think about it? I said, you know what he's going to think about it. He's not going to like it. She said, son, I've got to tell you one thing. Don't forget this. She said, son, you sometimes have to ignore a few to win the hearts of many. Sometimes you have to ignore a few to win the hearts of many. That served me well in IT. All those years in IT. I do this now full time, about 6 years. But all those days in IT especially, remember that. You got that roll out and somebody's right there, you know you did a good job. Sometimes you have to ignore a few to win the hearts of many. So I took that little bit of courage from my mother, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to go for it. I started being strategic. As I mentioned, I stepped back and I thought, well, which game should I do this at? So I picked homecoming, the biggest game of the year. At the time, it seemed like a good idea. Oh man, before I knew it, homecoming had shown up, and I stepped into that gymnasium that evening. I did have the guitar with me, and got it here today. Had it around my neck. This night, though, the gym was packed to the rafters of people, filled up, and the energy was high in the room, and you could smell the hot dogs and popcorn coming out of the concession stand. I got in the middle of the court, and I played the national anthem a little bit differently. It went just like this. had the same response that evening. The whole place went crazy. Energy explodes a whole other level. Basketball team comes alive and beat our rivals the first time in many, many years. And after the game, one person after another just coming up, man, oh, thanks, man, that was really rotted. And man, I was flying high all weekend long. And then Monday morning rolled around. Oh boy, I was in the homeroom. I don't know if you remember your homeroom. Mine had a wood box on the wall, and in it was a little speaker. And Sister Margaret would come across that speaker every morning and run through the announcements. At the end of the announcements Monday morning, she says, "And I need to see Mr. Manley Feinberg." In my office immediately. All my buddies in homeroom like, "Yeah, oh, you're so cool now. Don't get up in there now." And that fear just swept. I saw some of your faces, especially the guys, are like, "Oh, I remember that moment." You got called in the office, right? I get in there, she slammed the door behind me, sits me down, she says, "I have a message from Mr. Ice. You will never, ever, ever play guitar in this school again." She slammed me. But it was worth the lesson. 25 years later, a friend posted on Facebook. He said, "Y'all remember when Manley played the national anthem in our homecoming game?" He said, "I don't know if you know this, but that inspired me to step up again and again in my life, out of my comfort zone." I had no idea that courage is contagious. But I never could have done it without my mother. No way. And the real lesson is right there, and this is how you can go take this out the door and do something with it. Know that. It just takes one person. She taught me that when you have a crazy idea, just go find one person who will listen and give you a little space to explore it safely before resistance has a chance to bury your boldness and your brilliance. She taught me that one crazy idea, one conversation, one courageous effort at a time is how you stretch your comfort zone. It was that foundation of courage that my mother helped me build that gave me something to stand on when I was introduced to rock climbing in 1992. And as I mentioned in the video, Buddy Travis planted a seed in my mind. It was a crazy idea, but I knew in my heart it would be worth it when I heard it. I started exploring the idea. It took me 5 years, as I mentioned. By the time 97 rolled around, I finally had grown that seed of an idea into the reality of stepping on this summit of El Capitan, Yosemite. But y'all ever notice how sometimes you pull something off? You have a wild idea in your life, and then you try it. You step up, you get a new role, responsibility, something, take on a project, and then you pull it off. You go, wow. And for that fleeting moment, I said on the summit, you look around and you go, well, if we did that, maybe we could do this. That's exactly what happened. That fall, I was reading in Rock and Ice and Climbing Magazine about what they call the last great frontier of big wall climbing. A big wall climbing to that wall so big you have to sleep on it for days, so steep you can barely hang on. So I thought, wow, how could I get there? What if I did go there? What would that be like? I started trying to plan a trip. I scraped up the cash. That was number one obstacle. Got that figured out. And then I started other, basics, logistics, weather. What's the climbing like there? What's the state of affairs politically? Is it stable? Turns out it wasn't very stable, but I went anyway. I came around the summer of '99, and I faced a setback that nearly ended the entire trip. I didn't have a partner. I tried to line up a partner, of course, to go with me from the U.S., but I couldn't find one who was willing to do it, but crazy enough. And then I had a little fell swoop of luck at the very last moment there. My brother had been moved into that region to do microcredit banking, which is the most effective way they found to actually stimulate poverty in third world developing countries. I remember the conversation. I said, I don't think I'm coming. I don't have a partner. He said, listen, brother, I've got a guy I just met over here. He's pretty cool. And I think he's a pretty competent climber. I don't know. He said, I can't do it with you, that's for sure. But I will help you get here. And maybe he'll make a good partner. I said, don't even know this guy. And I remember brother saying, well, this is pretty clear to me. He said, if you don't get on the plane, you don't have any chance at all. Step on the plane. I gave it a shot. It was a lonely plane ride. I got on the plane anyway, though, and I loaded up over 200 pounds of bags and started dragging them halfway around the world. I've compressed this week of epic travel into about 60 seconds for you. And I want to invite you to join me this time, so I'm not so lonely on the plane. But we're going to start out down in St. Louis. We fly from St. Louis to Detroit. 1999 from Detroit over to JFK. Those of you who've been to that airport know it's an adventure in itself. Then we finally got over to London, and by then Turkish Airlines lost all of our baggage. Thank you, Turkish Air. We landed in Istanbul next, and then from Istanbul we finally get into Bishkek, Central Asia, 3 days of insane flights later. In the most amazing culture you've ever seen. We struggle 3 days, finally get the bags back, we load them up into a single Russian Jeep, and on dirt roads through the mountains, Osh, Kyrgyzstan, we cross the border from Osh into Uzbekistan. From Uzbekistan, we cross the border back into Tajikistan, 80 miles north of Afghanistan. We unload the Jeeps. The single Jeep, that is. We load up a donkey and 2 others, and a couple men help us walk on foot for 2.5 days, run into these amazing nomadic families, and finally land, walking by old men sitting on rocks since Jesus walked by. That dude's still sitting there, I'll bet you. Very good. And I remember getting there and looking around, and wow. It felt like a lot of my days in IT. I was overwhelmed. You ever had that happen? You sign up, you think, oh, I can do that. Yeah, and then you wake up, you're driving to work one day, and you go, what in the world was I thinking? Why am I doing this? The sun came up and I can see full glory of the... I want to give you a sense of that view. I have built a slide to scale to give you a sense of it. This is a little icon down at the bottom there. It's actually to scale. It's called the St. Louis Arch. It's 630 feet tall. I live in St. Louis. Raise your hand if you've seen the St. Louis Arch. Most of you, good stuff. If you haven't seen it, it's pretty tall. It's about the height of the average skyscraper. So if you haven't been to St. Louis, imagine just standing in downtown, not downtown Helena, but a big city. I love downtown Helena, no offense. A big city downtown, right? Like I'm saying Chicago or something like that, right? You're tiring up with those skyscrapers. Well, if you stack up to scale right here, 3 average walls in this valley, there they are. 12 of them packed into that 3 square miles that are over 3,000 feet, and lots of other walls and mountains as well in there. And if you stack up 6 of the St. Louis Arch or 6 of your biggest grain silo around here, almost reached the summit of those mountains. I was absolutely overwhelmed. Felt like a lot of days in IT, like all these different mountains and balls you're trying to juggle. You tell me, in your life and your work, do you feel like you're just trying to climb one mountain, or do you have multiple mountains you feel like you're facing? Every day, multiple mountains, right? Absolutely. Well, this was the first vertical lesson that I started really applying intentionally in the world of business and IT and other teams. I started realizing something. I would go over there halfway around the world, and I realized, well, you can't climb but one mountain at a time when you're in the mountain world. You have to pick one, right? But then I would get back to business, and I couldn't get that clarity of focus. I started applying this principle. I'm going to lay on you right now. Vertical lesson number 2. Vertical lesson number 2 is declare your current climb. I get some resistance sometimes, and this gets misunderstood. People say, what do you mean now? I can't ignore all these different mountains. Now, maybe I can prioritize, but I can't ignore them. That's not what I mean at all. What I would invite you to do, specifically with the big list that you're building of amazing ideas you picked up at this conference, I want you to go through the list, carve out a moment before you get back to the chaos. And don't try to implement 3, 4, 5, 6 things. That's what I used to always do. Just pick one new item off your list that you know is going to make a difference. That you know that it's going to have impact, maybe just on you or your customer that you serve, whoever that is. Pick one, because you're trying to add this into all the other things you're already doing. So don't try to do 3, 4, 5. But what I would invite you to do is always have one current climb that's above and beyond, because you know it's going to make a difference for you, your team, your organization. Pick one. You declare it. Say, this is my current climb. You've got to keep it visible in your face, tactical idea. I go into depth in the chapter in the book about this. I have a lot of tactical content just around the chaos and the momentum piece, right? That's a crux. How do we keep clarity? This will get you going at least. Declare your current climb, keep it visible in your face every single day, and move it forward every day, a little bit at a time. You'll be surprised how much momentum you'll build, even with just 5 minutes a day. Declare your current climb. I declared this mountain right here. It's called Aksu 3850. It's also known as the Central Pyramid, a northwest pillar of the Aksu Valley. One of the easier walls, is why I picked it, is 2,700 feet tall. I thought, well, maybe it'd be a little easier since there's 300 less feet at the top of it. Seemed like a good idea. So I thought, well, that's going to work. And then I ran into another issue. I had the partner that my brother had lined up. He ran out of time. He actually was quite confident, a real nice guy. Had to go back to work. Happens, even in Central Asia. He takes off, and I'm sitting there thinking, and then my brother has to head back to the capital city. It leaves me there with this little base camp guard guy. He couldn't have guarded a mushroom, but he was a good guy. He tried to help me make some meals. We screwed up our food supplies, and we were like eating just potatoes and ramen noodles basically for weeks, and pouring down rain. It's like, this sucks. Finally, the last evening rolled around on the calendar. I thought, if I don't get a partner today, it's done. And then I met a Russian couple. I'll never forget it. I met this gal named Zhula. Beautiful Russian gal, had these striking blue eyes. And she had this sense of spirit, was just strong. You could just tell when you met her. And I looked at her, she was there with her husband. And they had no intention of adding a third person to the party. It's kind of like when you apply for the job and they say, we don't have any opening positions, but we'll call you when something opens up. She kept looking at me, and she was puzzled. I thought, what is it? And she doesn't understand me, does she? And sure enough, that's what it was. She didn't understand me because they hardly even spoke any English. So I just turned up the Kentucky charm on them. Because she kept looking at me, I could tell she wasn't buying into it. Then finally, I could just see her eyes shift a little bit. She started warming up to the idea. She looked up at me and she said, Mommy, maybe you'll make a good partner. Dang on right, I was thinking that. Well, meanwhile, as she started warming up to the idea, her husband Dima, you see how excited he was. He kept looking at me. He kept standing as I was crouching down talking to her. He paced around. Finally, he broke the silence after an hour. He says, Mandy, you skinny. I started defending myself. I said, I thought that was good, because I'm light, I climb well. And he said, that's fine. I got the job. Woo! All right, you're hired. We started having conversations, simple and resources. Project's going to go on. You got to figure it out. Right? What do we have to make this happen? Simple conversations like, what can we leave behind and still survive without? We finally figured out little arguments here and there about how much water, basics. We thought about 3 days to get to the top and back down again. So we pack up, and that next morning we head out down this mountain valley. If you can imagine, to my left, there's this raging white water river. And out ahead on the trail, about 100 yards, Mrs. Zhula had gotten ahead of us. And then Dima was right in front of me, just yelling a bunch of Russian. I only remember 2 words of Russian. Maybe you know them. He'd look at the mountain, and he'd look back at me and said, Mani, da! That's yes. And then he would look and point and say, Mani, niet! That's no. Da, niet, da, Mani. He freezes in time. I remember right behind him, I'm looking at him, what is he doing? He freezes in time, he's pointing up in the air like a statue, and then all of a sudden he starts to, he's going back, and I realized at the very last second, his head's going to crash into these rocks right in front of me. The very last moment, I dive out, barely cradle his head to the ground. Zhula! He's wrenching in a grand mal seizure. We get him on his side, and I get my coat off, cover him up. After 3 minutes of agony, he finally sinks into something short of a deep coma. The guy's out cold. And I'm flipping out. I'm staring at Zhula. And I just wanted to first know, is he going to be okay? I said, Zhula, Dima's, we got to get him some help. She said, Mommy, Dima's fine. I remember thinking, honey, I don't know where exactly you're from in Russia, but where I come from, that is not okay. He needs help, honey. We got to get him some help. She looked at me. I said, Zhula, we are 3 days from a third world hospital. Mommy, no problem, Dima. 1 year, 1 seizure. No more seizures, 1 year. Rest, decline. I'm checking his pulse. I mean, look, he's out. He's still alive. And look at her, and she just can't tell me. No problem, buddy. Oh, you know why I was really freaking out? Guess who was supposed to hold that rope for me? That's funny now, isn't it? Of yet today. I promise you this one, above all else, if you just implement one idea, it's going to make a difference in your life. I guarantee it. We all need this. We all need to know that somebody who's got the rope in their hands for us. And they need to just do a few things well for us. They need to, number one, give us that belay, B-E-L-A-Y. The belay, the belayer, the one that holds the rope for you. They enable you to do whatever you're trying to do that's out of your comfort zone, to step up and stretch. They need to not give you too much slack, though. Sometimes we do that as a belayer. They might give you too much slack, and then you take a fall. All right? We do that. It's not a if, it's when you fall. Boom. You're going to go too far and hurt yourself. You ever do that with a team member? I used to do it a lot. I think I thought I was doing them a favor. Yeah. It was me I was doing a favor to. I wasn't serving them. I'd give them too much slack, and then sometimes I'd have a person have me on belay in my life, and they hold me too tight. I couldn't move. Most importantly of all, we need to know that when we fall, not if, when we fall, that belayer is going to lock the rope off so that we can get back on the wall and get moving as quickly as possible. It's a simple idea, actually. It's about connection. And I'm going to give you a framework right now. 3 steps. That's all it takes to make sure that you know exactly what you need to do when you walk out of here. It's easy. Number one, I think the hardest part of this, frankly, is just finding time in your already chaotic life. So here's a little tactical tip out of the book for you based on some very solid research around the world. How to install a new habit. Best thing you can do is attach it to an existing routine. So maybe it's coffee, maybe it's water, maybe it's whiskey in the morning, I don't know which. You get that little moment in your life in the morning and you just say, I'm going to try to set myself up for success today, get some clear head about me before you head out. Right then, attach it to your existing routine, these 3 steps. Number 1, ask yourself this question first. The question is, who do I need on belay today to accomplish everything in your life you're trying to accomplish? Who is it that you need for you that support? Get them in your mind. Make a little note, perhaps. Or maybe right now you write that down. Who's that person that you need? Second question. Who will I belay today? Who are you willing to reach out to that you might know they need you? Or they're struggling, or they're dealing with a project, or something in their personal life. You think, you know what, I bet Bob or Susan, or whoever it is, that's maybe who I'll just reach out to today. Give them a belay. And then step 3 is the easiest, actually, but the one I get the most internal resistance myself on, is to get on belay. It's simple, it's fast, it's easy. And all that really means is to be connected, get connected with them, and you can do it a lot of different ways. Ultimately, of course, we all know this, human connection face-to-face is best. But what if you don't have time? Don't let that be an excuse. How long does it take for a quick text message? Or a Facebook message, or LinkedIn, or stopping by their cube, or a phone call, just to say, hey, I was thinking of you today. How you doing? Just a quick check. That's it. All right, I got your back. I got you on belay. I'm here for you. Maybe that's too touchy-feely for you. That's fine. Use your own very direct language if you want. If you're one of those, and you say, hey, I know you got a lot going on. How's the project going? What can I knock out of your way so we can get this done? Get on belay. It's the number one excuse for me, because another thing I always say, well, I don't have time to call my dad today. Now, here's the truth, is I've already lost my mom. You think I would know better. My dad's 81 now, and it won't be long before I will not be able to get a physical belay or a phone call with him anymore. Before it's too late. For the people that matter, reach out. And please do not let vertical or horizontal boundaries limit you. Maybe it's your boss. Maybe it's somebody in a different city, town, department. Maybe it's the guy in your bowling league. I don't know, care where it is. Reach out intentionally every single day. The person you need, the person that needs you, and give them a quick belay. And watch the results show up for you. I have a special guest here today. I got a belay last night. I had 3 flights canceled. They were turning planes away from Montana across the state. I got to Salt Lake City. They said, you're not going to make it. 7 a.m. in the morning, we'll get you in Dubuque. I said, I won't be on that stage. I got to be there at 9 a.m. I don't know if the lady really got it. What are you doing in the morning? I said, just how far north can you get me? She said, Pocatello Island is all I can do. She flies me up to Pocatello last night, get in at 11 a.m. The limo driver I had found to go across the mountain pass and pick me up, he said, you have to have a 4-wheel drive if you're going to make an overnight drive through those mountains. They didn't have any four-wheel drives left. And told me, tell him. Then I met David, sitting right here at the table. He is a retired Marine Harrier pilot. First of all, I want to applaud him and thank him for his service. There was one man crazy enough in Pocatello, Idaho, to get in a plane with me at 1 in the morning and fly through that weather and get me here. Thank you for the delay. I'll never forget you. And I've got a book for you. Delay's what it's about, y'all. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Get on delay. Over an hour goes by. And Dima's out cold. And I just kept staring at Jula. I kept asking her again and again. I said, Jula, are you sure? I tried to explain to her, I thought maybe she didn't get the belay. I said, Jula, you know about the belay, right? She said, yes, Mommy. I said, we're going to take falls. Will Dima be able to stop the rope and hold us on the wall and save our lives? She said, Mommy, I tell you 10 times, Dima's fine. Honey, that looks fine. Okay. Look at him. Maybe she had a big life insurance policy on her. I don't know what was going on. I kept looking at her. She kept telling me. Finally, she says, Mommy, I tell you again, finally, Dima, 1 seizure, 1 year, no more seizures, 1 year probably. You speak Russian too. I said, did you say probably? She said, maybe, no more seizures, 1 year. What? I know what you're all thinking. What next? And don't tell me you went climbing up there. Dima finally got to his feet. He stumbled and he struggled at first, and then he got his footing and he started breathing. We're just dead silent, just watching him, seeing how he felt. Finally, he walks around and he digs into our backpack. He grabs a bottle of water. Mani, Jula, Summit! I know y'all think I'm crazy. Perhaps I am. You ever had a moment when you committed despite the circumstances? Like David did last night. You commit despite the circumstances, and you look somebody in the eyes and you trust them. We have to do that sometimes. I looked him in the eyes and I trusted him. And we loaded up our gear. I got my coat back on, and we packed up our bags. We headed up to the base of the wall, which was 10,000 feet in elevation. And I don't know if y'all have noticed this. It seems like any big project, it always goes live a little bit later than we expected, right? Sure enough, we get started later than expected, and the go live was delayed. 10 a.m. though, we get launched onto the wall, and we start making a little progress. I just was mostly concerned about Dima's health. Number one, he was stable, seemed solid, and his physical ability was amazing. Quite impressive right away. I noticed, this guy can rock climb. We get up to this first ledge. Imagine 570 feet off the ground, you are standing on a ledge that's about the exact size of that table in front of you. As I started to get more confident in Dima's abilities, I realized that he had a safety breach. I kept looking over there, and I kept looking at one little device. Some of you probably know what this is. What do you call this little dude? Carabiner, that's right. This is actually Dima's carabiner. He gave it to me at the end of the climb, and if you look real close, it's hard to see it, but down there by his right shin, it's hanging on the rope. I kept looking over, and this is simple. Let me give you a quick explanation if you're not aware of these. Two types. There's ones that open and close freely. There's a one that you can actually lock. You tell me, you're standing on that ledge with me 570 feet up, and you've got one of these to clip yourself into the wall. Would you lock it? Yes or yes? Of course, right? I look over, I said, Dima, you got to lock your carabiner. He said, Mani, not necessary. What? I went over to Miss Jula, thinking, surely she gets this. Miss Jula, you got to lock your carabiner. She said, Mani, a little sweeter. Same response, not necessary. Really, not necessary. What? I kept telling him, I said, You gotta lock your carabiners. This is simple. You gotta lock your carabiners. You ever had that happen with someone in your life? It's a standard operating procedure. Yes, SOP. This is what we do. We lock it. Here's how you do it. Click down here. You do this. You use this form. This is how we do this. I kept telling you got to lock your carabiner. Wouldn't do it. And then after a while, maybe you've done this job. Like, okay, well, maybe I need to show them how. Right? So I'll do some training. So I said, here's how you lock it. Check it out. It's not Russian rocket science, Demon. And then that didn't work. I thought, well, maybe I'll do it for him. Lead by example, right? So I just started doing it for him, and that finally irritated him enough. And I finally got not commitment, but compliance. I would pop up over the ledge. They'd see me coming. They'd say, "Marty, it's locked. Leave us alone." Took a while. It took even longer for me to figure out what was really going on with this carabiner. In 2014, it hit me. I was doing some work for one of the biggest retailers in the world in a hotel, holed up all winter with them, and it hit me. And I noticed it because I was doing the same thing in my life as a father, as a friend, as a leader. I did a lot. Actually, I would just chase the behaviors. And I realized, and I know that when you stop chasing behaviors and you start challenging beliefs, you're going to get the results faster. Start challenging beliefs. Your own first, and then the beliefs of your team members. I ask myself now, and I wonder if I'd step back and just ask them a simple question. Demon, why do you believe it's not necessary to lock the carabiner? Let's talk about it. Why do you think it's not necessary? I think I could have gotten the result faster. Maybe I could have even gotten commitment instead of just compliance. Stop chasing behaviors. Start challenging beliefs. That's vertical lesson number 4 for you. Spent the night on that ledge the next morning. Day 2 comes, and we finally started building some real momentum on the wall. We started free climbing up that wall. Free climbing, by the way, is a phrase that's misunderstood. What that means is that we're actually freely climbing up the wall on our own power. That is, we're using our hands and our feet, clawing and holding on to the edges of the granite. And we're only putting the equipment, including that red rope that we had on the climb, in the wall and attaching it just in case we fall. Safety net. We're moving up the wall, and Dima and I were the lead climbers. We would trade off, and one would lead up into the unknown while the other one belayed. And then we would belay Miss Jula up. She was in charge of moving the equipment up for us. We would go and move. We finally started. And by the time we got that momentum going, that wall came back and challenged us. It got steeper, and by midday, we were just barely able to hang on. By the afternoon, the wall becomes even steeper than that, overhanging in places. We're scratching and clawing just to stay alive. Then day 2 comes, the sun sets, and the sun rolls over the horizon. At that very moment, this massive wind starts raging down the wall. We huddled up in a little chimney about the size of a broom closet, if you can imagine, and dripping wet. And I start freaking out again, because we had nowhere to sleep. Fortunately, Dima brought enough courage for all of us. He looked over at Jewel and I, and he said, "Mandy, maybe I lead rope. I'll find ledge. You belay. Mandy." I said, "Take it, Demon, before you change your mind." I got you on belay, and I'm going to stay here and keep your wife warm. I thought it was funny, too. He did not think it was funny. I thought, oh boy, I blew it. No, just go. I got you on belay. I surely didn't want to be the one up in that chimney that night. He heads out into the darkness, grinding his way up this dark, wet chimney through the wind. Finally, after hours and hours past midnight, he yells down between blasts of wind to us, "Molly, I have the edge." I got so excited. I started getting super excited, and then I thought, wait a second, my expectations are getting maybe out of line here. I better check my expectations. I said, "Dima, is the ledge good? Molly, ledge is good as gold." The word gold rang out on the wall and just echoed in my mind, and I checked into the hotel suite. Imagine the most amazing hotel suite you have ever seen in your entire life, and I'm in it in my head, and I've got my legs up on the leather couch. I've got Dima and Jula down there rubbing on my toes, bringing me hot tea. And, whew, it was good while it lasted in my mind. You think it was that good, though, really? Now, by the way, a little side note, if a Russian takes you climbing and they say it's good as gold, look out. Here is good as gold ledge for you. Now take the table you're sitting at and tilt it 30 degrees, cut it in half, and covered it in rocks. I let Dima Jula have the honeymoon suite on the inside. I took the outside edge, half my body hanging off into the void, my legs flapping in the breeze. And then we took turns overnight holding the tent off our face so it wouldn't suffocate us in our sleep. At 2:30 in the morning, we realized we were completely out of food and water. That morning was rough. I'm not a big morning person anyway. And it's a north-facing mall, freezing cold. Guess who got the first climb of the day? I remember standing there when I took that photo, and I had a realization that I think will serve you well. I realized that I didn't ask the right question. Is it good? Is ledge good? What would have been a better question to ask? Give me some examples.
Is it flat?
Is it flat? Thank you. Perfect. What else? How wide is it? Simple question. Yeah. Is it flat? Is it wide enough? What else? Is it safe enough?
Yeah.
Does it have a couch? Tea service? What's going on up there, Dima? I didn't ask the right questions. And I know this, and I bet if you step back and think about it, you probably noticed it too. Great leaders, whether they have a title or not, ask better questions. Great IT professionals ask better questions. Whether you're on the front lines, or you're a support person, or you're a problem manager, or an analyst, or a database, whatever you do, CIO, governor, leader, father, husband, wife, friend, sales partner, in the vendor area. Great leaders ask better questions. Ask the right questions, and you will get better results. Ask the right questions. That is vertical lesson number 5. Ask the right questions. If you will consistently work on your ability to ask better questions, you will get further, do more, have more influence, life will be better. One final one for you. I have this one in there as well in the book. One question for you to send you out of here with. What question, if you ask it every single day of your life, would change everything for you if you just were consistent with it? Day 3 was the hardest morning of my life. I got going on leave, freezing cold. I scratched my way up and finally step up about 175 feet above us. I build an anchor, and I then brought up Jula on the belay and Mr. Dima. And then it was Dima's turn. He leads up, and I belay him as he climbs up. And then he brings us up. Dima brought Jula and me both up on the belay, and I get to that anchor. And then we were way up on the wall now. And we were getting to a point where we think just maybe we were able to reach the summit, perhaps that same day. It was my turn to lead again. I did something I try to do in my day-to-day life. That is, I try to, as I mentioned earlier, give myself that little moment to set things in favor for me to maybe have the best possible day I can. In the climbing world, the way this looks is to literally get a leg up. So what I always do is climb up as high as possible as I can get on the anchor system. So I stepped up high, I had their head right about my feet, and I was clipped directly into the anchor system. The anchor system consisted of these 3 pieces of gear. This yellow one was the highest piece, so I clipped directly into it. Getting ready, digging deep. I'm trying to see, do I have what it takes to get us to the top of this thing? And I remember leaning back one last time to see if I could see the real summit, if that was a false summit ahead. And then I remember hearing the grinding noise, split second. And then the sickening smell of metal on granite. And then it happened. Bing! I slam onto the anchor system, shock loading it, all of our equipment, and all 3 of us swinging 2,400 feet off the deck. Usually, when you shock load an anchor, everybody goes down. I won't tell you what I said next. I gave him an earful of Kentucky English, y'all. Wide open. I was so upset I went off on Dima. Because he blew the basics. Basics. I can teach you how to use these in about 2 minutes. Let's do it right now. Grab the right side, you pull it back, put it in the crack. Then you grab another one. We need redundancy. You know that, right? Yeah, backups, right? So we grab another one, different size, put it in there, grab another one, put it in there, equalize them all out in case one blows. Dima blew the basics. And I've been pointing the finger at him all these years. Because here's what happened And here's where I have to be really transparent. In April this year, I was preparing for some keynotes. And it's about 3 in the morning, I'm laying in my bedroom in the bed, and it's hit me like a ton of bricks. And I sat up in the bed, and I thought, oh my. All these years I've been pointing the finger at Dima, and I should have checked the anchor. I'd never checked the anchor. And I've been pointing the finger at him all these years. Was it his responsibility? Absolutely. But I had an accountability to the entire team for our safety, and I never checked the anchor. Check your anchors. More importantly, anchor your actions and accountability. Those key anchors in your life that are going to hold the team on the wall, no matter what. You know, whatever storm comes, winter or economic or otherwise, the anchors will keep you on the wall. But hold yourself accountable. That's vertical lesson number 6. I rebuilt the anchor that morning, and I added an additional piece of gear so that I could trust it, and so I could know without a shadow of a doubt that it was going to hold us on the wall. And then I stepped up on the lead, and at the end of day 3, we were moving along, and finally crawl onto the summit. Sun starts to set. I belay up Mr. Dima and Jula, and as we look off to the west, you can see into Tibet and China, all the way towards those beautiful countries. Behind us, these mountains stretching up above us, towering and touching the sky. And then off to the east, you can see mountains that have yet to be named and yet to be climbed. I remember that nightfall quickly came, and about 3:30 in the morning or 4, I couldn't sleep. We were cramped up in this little 2-person tent that was barely standing. I dragged my sleeping bag out, and the moon had come up and was shining down on all these granite walls. It was such a surreal moment in time for me. I had another realization that Dima and Jula, although they were not perfect partners, I knew that when I left the ground. They were incredible partners. Turns out incredible partners will get you there. I knew there was no way I would have been there without them. The next morning, we woke up on day 4 starving and thirsty, our throats raw, and we celebrated the summits anyway. We celebrated the summit. Celebrated the summit is vertical lesson number 7 for you. We got a little mini tripod out of my bag and set the camera up and got a quick photo. And then Dima went to work scouring the summit, and he finally found 2 little chunks of ice. He melted them down in that pot right there, and it's barely wetted our throats enough. Let me ask you a quick question before we move on. Do you think you celebrate the summits enough in your life? Big ones and little ones. Do you celebrate the summits enough? Yes or no? No. I get the same response everywhere I go. Celebrate the summits, big and small, and then move on quickly. Celebrate the summits. The water was just what we needed. It wetted our throats, as I mentioned, and we finally then are able to start that crazy descent, 2,000 feet of rappelling, struggling, and through ice fields and snow and falling rock, and finally stumbled into base camp safely at the end of day 4. I never saw Dima and Jula again. Lost contact with them as well, unfortunately, but they're always with me. No question. Question for you, though, right now. How will you reach your next summit? How will you reach your next summit? I'm going to do a quick little exercise here. And I've got the final vertical lesson 8 for you. You don't want to miss this one. But right now, take a moment, grab a piece of paper or your fancy device, and pick one of the vertical lessons we've covered so far. They're all there, and starting with my mother's vertical lesson, Courage is Contagious, all the way through the summit. Pick just one for now that you're committed to going out and implementing in your life. Pick one. And then I'm going to ask you for a quick little moment of feedback so that I can perhaps give you a little bribe. And I want to hear what was relevant for you, what was meaningful. Pick one and write it down. And then if you raise your hand, you're willing to share the room right here. Don't need to hear the backstory right now, although I would love to hear that in the hallway later perhaps. Just a vertical lesson so we can get through a few of them. And those of you who are willing to raise your hand, I will give you one of my little locking carabiners. It's a mini replica of Dima's carabiner. It does lock. It's not safe for climbing. It has my cell phone number on this little tag here. It rings the phone sitting on that table. On the back, you got the vertical lessons. keep it as a keychain or whatever, something useful for you. And I want to make sure, these are all I have. I got a whole bag full of them, somewhere between here and Arizona. I grabbed 5 last night, and I want to make sure David gets one. And I also, before I move on, before I forget to thank Miss Christy McDowell for believing in me, trusting me, and bringing me here. So thank you, Christy. You probably already have one. Also, before I forget as well, how about a hand for Miss Amber and Miss Jennifer? Thank you. I have two Jennifer. Jennifer Schofield. Another Schofield in my life right now. There's a different name. Jennifer Schofield. Thank you. Raise your hand. Who's the one who wants to share that vertical lesson? Yes. Which one for you? The first one. Courage is contagious. Thank you. What's your name? Hi, Stacy. There you go. Thank you. All right. I've got 3 more. All the way over there. Y'all make me work. Did y'all know this is how I get my exercise? I don't love to exercise. I trick myself into doing it by running around rooms all over the place. Yes, sir. What's the one for you?
Get on belay.
Get on belay. Thank you, sir. What's your name?
Bill.
Bill. Thank you, Bill. Get on belay. All right. 2 more. Who wants to share? Yes, sir. Which one for you?
Start challenging beliefs.
Start challenging beliefs. Thank you, Tony. Start challenging beliefs. Last one in the very back. What was the one for you?
Get on belay.
Get on belay. Thank you, sir. What's your name? Thank you, Michael. Appreciate you. All right. Are y'all getting more value than you expected at the conference? Yes or yes? Okay, good. Next question. Are you having more fun than you expected? Good. So what can get in the way? Yourself, right? Or maybe your comfort zone. Some of you are like, well, beer doesn't sound too bad. I don't know about Milwaukee's best, but your comfort zone, the gravity of your comfort zone is relentless. It's going to be there waiting to pull you back down. Maybe for a moment, get recovery and be intentional about it, but step back up. To help you do that, I'm going to make a quick offer for you, because I get the question anyway. And this was a very broken process for me, but now I've made it very simple and easy. So here's the offer for you. If you want the slides, you're welcome to have them. Here's how you can get them quickly. We're going to use technology. So just grab your cell phone. You're just going to text something. If you want the slides, as well as the slides, I had a little, I've got a few of these with me too. I'll give a few of these out, or all of them. A little postcard with the vertical lessons on it that you can put visible in your life. The PDF version of that for you, as well as the slides in PDF. And then the third thing on the website for you is a Relationship Strategies ebook. We're going to be talking a little bit about this stuff this afternoon in the breakout. Help you build some momentum in those delays with people who are not so easy to deal with. Here's how you get it if you want these items is text word vertical to 44222. 44222. All right, how are we doing? Ready for the last vertical lesson? All right, here we go. Got this support? Hopefully you're inspired. We have all the information we need out there on Google, but we need some inspiration to go with it. Yeah. That question I brought up earlier kept haunting me. It was 2014. And springtime, I hit this valley in my business. And I wasn't sure if this whole crazy full-time speaking thing was going to work. And I also was having some struggles in my personal life. I kept asking myself an important question. I want you to consider this as well as you walk out here. I mentioned it earlier. Is it really going to be worth it? Is it going to be worth it? I kept thinking back, and this one friend of mine kept popping in my mind, and a specific experience I had with him. I kept going back to 2008, and at that moment in 2008, I had decided, a crazy idea, I thought, I'm going to go back and climb El Capitan again. So I went out to Yosemite, California, and I teamed up with my friend Richard Copeland, very competent, well-known climber in Yosemite Valley. And I got out there, I had a goal when I arrived. I said, Rich, I want to do the nose. That was the first route I've ever done. It's the kind of the easiest, one of the easier ways up the wall, about 3 to 5 days. It's right there by his hand. I got out there though, and Rich said, man, like, we could do that route, you know. But he said, what if we did the second ascent of a new route around the corner? I said, well, Rich, nobody else has done it. He said, nobody else has done it. I said, why? He said, because it's one of the hardest routes on the wall. I said, good, that's easy for me to decide, then I'm out. No. You can tell the guy's crazy, right? I said, I'm not up for that. He did something, though, that I've noticed that great leaders do. He looked at me and he says, you came to that goal, but I see something bigger. He had a vision of something bigger. Then he talked me into it. I didn't think I could do it. But he said, come on, you can do this. We then started packing up, not for 3 days on the wall, but for 14, we estimated, to get to the top. Packed up all the gear we needed, and then we jumped on the wall. And we started making some pretty good progress despite the extreme difficulty of the wall. It would take us sometimes a whole day to just make it 200, 300 feet up the wall. And then day 2 comes, and we start just hanging out on what we call the portal ledge. Now, this wall is so steep, there's no ledges at all you can sleep on. So we brought our own. The portable ledge. I remember sitting on that ledge with him and looking at Rich and living there day in, day out. And it struck me in those quiet moments between the chaos. Man, the word leadership kept popping in my mind. Rich is a leader, man. The way he shows up for me. Because I noticed this before he even left the ground. When we were down in the valley, he would run into strangers and people had known him for years. And when they would walk away, I noticed they were enlightened and lifted up and more engaged and smiling. And on the wall, for me, if there were 2 loads of gear, he would just grab the heavier load. If there were 2 portions of food, he would just grab the smaller one. Leadership, though, I thought, well, that couldn't be, because let me explain a little something about Rich. Rich is a blue-collar guy. He was working for the Ford Motor Company. Got laid off. He said, I'm going to chase my dream. Moved out to the mountains and started introducing people to the wilderness. He lived in, at that time, a little crappy trailer up in the woods and had this junky car. No money. Right? So all those things conflicted because I thought, well, leadership's about title and how many people report to you, how much influence you have, and how big your budget is. Yeah. Next day comes, I remember taking this crazy photo right here. You can see Rich just sit on a portal edge there, laying pasted on the edge of the planet. I remember this day in and day out, that grind. That's when a person's true character is revealed. Not the glory moments, but the little moments in between. We just kept grinding, kept going, and we finally reached the crux section of the wall. Rich took a 4.5-hour lead to go 200 feet to the left. It was just a traverse, but we made it through it. And we were excited at the end of day 4 because we realized that tomorrow we got about 175 feet to go, and we will wrap this new route up, and then we're going to merge with an existing route that is well known and much easier. And we figured about 7 days of easy street from there to the top. I get Rich on belay. He gets up there, 100+ feet above me. He is one move from finishing the second ascent before we get to the other route. And ding! He slams into the wall and destroys his ankle. I, of course, locked him off on the belay. I lower him back down to the portal ledge. And he says, dude, you know those beers for yourself? Saving for the summit. I said, yeah. He said, give me a beer, man. Give me a beer. I dive down into the bag and get him a hot beer, and he puts it away quickly. And then we needed to have an important conversation, but I thought it was a simple, no conversation needed. I said, we need to call for rescue, Rich. He looked at me and he said, I have another idea. He said, Manley, you could self-rescue us. I said, dude, you're out of your mind. Now you're flipping out and hallucinating. He said, no, bro, look, it'd be better style. I said, what? I said, you're not going to be helping. I said, no, I'll be here for moral support, though. Oh, man, are you kidding me? You think he talked me into it? Yeah, of course he did. Because the great leaders do that, don't they? He did something right there. I've seen it done in business, life, IT. He saw in me something that I didn't believe in myself. He saw it, and then he started lighting it up until I could see it myself. And we headed out that next day. Day 6, we make the descent. Down the wall, we struggled. It was epic. Get to the base, he crawls on his hands and knees. Normally, what takes 20 minutes, 2.5 hours, to get back to the car on his own power. And, it really wasn't significant in the world economy. You'll never read about it anywhere. Well, I have in my book. It is in the book. all the details are in the book. But not a significant accomplishment for the climbing world, but it was a significant accomplishment for me because it taught me something. It challenged again that belief, a definition of what I thought a leader was and what you had to be a leader. And then it became crystal clear. In the May of 2014, I was leading a defense intelligence agency where I had a customer service contract. I used to do 2-day customer service relationship workshops for this organization. They wouldn't let me have a cell phone on in the building, so I would fire it up when I get back to the car. And I got a text message from my friend Josh. It said, "Have you heard about Rich?" I said, "Woo!" I got excited because Rich is always doing crazy things that just totally inspired me. So I called Josh up immediately, get on the highway. I said, "What's going on?" He said, "You here?" I said, "What?" He said, "You don't know, do you?" He said, Manly Sunday, Rich was getting ready to do a new climb. He wasn't even climbing though. This is the weird part, man. We don't know what happened, how this could possibly happen, because he'd gotten their gear up onto this big 300-foot ledge, almost as big as his room. He said somehow, Manly, he slipped off the front of this ledge, and he's gone. I was stunned. But I was stunned most by what happened next. I went to 2 funerals in 2014. The first was a very prominent IT leader of a technology company that every one of you have heard of. I remember going to that funeral, and despite the fact that gentleman had a lot of money, a big bank account, a huge house, all kinds of people are reported to him all over the globe, I'm in that church, and I remember my wife sitting next to me, and as quiet as she could, she whispers and leans over and says, "The church is empty." Meanwhile, the first funeral for Rich. In St. Louis, Missouri, they had one that was standing room only. And then out in the mountain range, where he actually was a mountain guide and took people out there in the wilderness, they had a ceremony for him, packed with people, and a final ceremony in Yosemite Valley for him, packed with people. And then the internet, it started. The tributes, and people started posting photos like this one, and sharing the legacy of Rich and how he had impacted their life. People like this young man, Wade, who said, "Rich changed my life forever. I'll never be the same. He introduced me to the mountains." And then at that camp he worked at every single week, all summer long, as a new group would come in, disconnect from the electronic world and reconnect with each other, they would have a little memorial. They tell about the legacy of Rich, and at the very end they take a little rock and drop it on this little memorial for him. We have a photo we believe to be the last one ever taken of Rich, and I stare at it a lot. And I contemplate this question. This is vertical lesson number 8 for you. What legacy will you leave? I think that's what it's really about. Rich taught me that when you show up like he did, bringing everything you got even when you don't feel like it, lighting other people up, and the way they walk away, they're more engaged and they're just a little brighter. You are a leader. And when you step up like that, like Rich did, you'll be on your next summit, and your team will be there with you. I had a moment like this in my personal life. One of those special moments on the summit I will never forget. It was 2012, and I was in South Dakota. Probably a lot of y'all been there. It was the Black Hills. We went out there to the Needles Highway by Custer State Park there near Mount Rushmore, and had the whole family with me. That's my primary team. We first declared our current climb, right? We picked spire number 4. It's the biggest spire in the whole area. Small granite, slender thing, and it's top of it about the size of that table. We started climbing up, and I had my main team members with me. Number 1 being my son Manly version 3.0. Manly is that, I don't know about y'all, hopefully you've got at least one in your life, that person on your team, personal or work, who just shows up every day. I'm here, let's do it. You want to clone him. This day was different though. Manly took a little fall right here, and I locked him off on the blade, no problem. I said, "Manly, got you, I got you." He said, "Dad, I don't feel like doing it today." I said, "I got you, come on." He wouldn't do it. I kept pushing, he didn't want to do it, and finally he asked a better question. He said, "Dad, will this summit look like the one we did the other day?" I said, "I think so." He said, he starts describing it to me, and next thing you know, he pulls the move, and boom, what do you think? He made the summit? Yep. Boom, he celebrated the summit. You think he waited for me? No. And him stepping up inspired all of us to step up, and especially my wife. My wife right there is afraid of heights. Now, Miss Lizzie, my daughter there, she's 14. She is not afraid of heights. And she's not afraid of boys. Help. Most memorable moment of my life right here is when it happened. Manley taps me on the shoulder. He says, Dad, can we climb that one next? Can we climb that one next? I cannot wait to hear about the one that you climb next. Thank you.
We're running a little late, so if you want to get directed to your next session, that would be great. For those of you who are presenting at 10:15, I apologize, we're running a little late. We wanted to take advantage of this presentation as much as possible, so we'll see you in a little bit, all right? Thank you.